Hello guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories.
True God in Another World, Tensura x Tbate, by Tempest_King_20. Chapter 26, Negotiation, Third Person POV. Director Goodsky. Nice to see you again. Both Alice and Tabitha said while bowing a little to the director.
Lilia followed suit, using her well-practiced bow. Nice to see you again, director.
Rimuru nodded in agreement and greeted the director as well. Director Goodsky, it's an honor to see you again.
I am also happy to see you again, dear, but there is no need for such formality. The director returned their greetings with a nod of her head before turning her attention back to Arthur. Then she brought it back to Rimuru, and then she looked at their mom.
It looks like both of your sons are a lot alike. I can't feel the mana coming from Arthur, she said, addressing Alice before turning back to Arthur. Can you tell me what stage you are, Arthur? I'm at the light red stage, Arthur replied, a sheepish grin on his face. I'm still working on honing my skills.
I expected you will be in a higher stage, she said as she looked at Arthur thoughtfully and seemed to be thinking something. Could you possibly have a beast will? Arthur was surprised and nodded. How did you know?
It was the only explanation. And considering you weren't with your brother last time but in Eleanor, it was Virion helping you with your beast will. The revelation shocked Helste's family, who were not privy to this information. Let's see a practical demonstration, Director Goodsky suggested, to which Arthur agreed. They all headed towards the backyard. As they walked, Lilia whispered to Rimuru, Hey Ri, is it true that your brother has a beast will? Rimuru nodded. Yes, it was Sylvie's mother who gave him the will.
I see. By the way, where's Sylvie? Lilia asked while looking around for Sylvie.
Sylvie, who had been hiding underneath the dinner table from the unfamiliar human, trotted behind them, causing Director Cynthia to raise an eyebrow. Oh my. What a lovely mana beast. I assume it is your contracted beast, Rimuru? She asked him inquisitively while kneeling down to get a closer view at Sylvie. Yeah, she hatched a few months ago. Her name is Sylvie, he simply responded. I have to say, while it is common for nobles to buy beasts to contract, I have never seen a mana beast like yours. She reached to pet Sylvie, but she was a bit skittish around the strangers, so she crawled onto Rimuru's head, seeking a sense of safety. Sorry, she's a bit shy around strangers. I see. Well, enough about her. Let us see what Arthur can do, said the director.
They had arrived at the backyard and everyone took seats, giving Arthur and the director enough space, Sylvie struggling to escape the grasp of Eleanor, and Rimuru standing up a bit closer to them than everyone else, in case he needed to step in. You're not going to use your wand. Arthur started stretching. It isn't very fair of me to be using a weapon when you yourself are empty-handed as well, right? She gave him a wink. Arthur tilted his head towards the sky, looked up at the sky, and stored somewhere for moments before turning back to look at his brother, who nodded. With silent assurance from his brother, he turned his attention back to the director. Arthur knew that Cynthia was not someone to be underestimated. He had heard about her from Virion and how she was as strong as him or stronger. Even though he knew his brother had defeated her, Rimuru said she wasn't even serious. The director and Arthur stood facing each other, ready for the demonstration. Cynthia was eager to see what Arthur was capable of, knowing he had been trained by Virion, and was excited to see what Rimuru's brother could do. Arthur took a deep breath as he prepared to demonstrate his skills. The director did not move, waiting for Arthur's attack. Arthur stomped his foot on the ground and pieces of ground the size of Arthur flew up. Arthur kicked in the direction of the director and all the rocks which were mid-air rushed towards the director at breakneck speed. The director's brows were raised in surprise by the sudden long-range attack that Arthur threw at her. But she remembered what Rimuru can do, and knew that he must be just as skilled. She decided to put his abilities to the test. With a flick of her wrist, she conjured a wind barrier that turned his attack into dust. Arthur watched in amazement as his attack was completely neutralized by Cynthia's barrier. He knew he had to come up with a new strategy, and quickly. He concentrated for a moment, feeling the power of the elements flow through him. He focused on the element of water, summoning a powerful jet of water that shot towards Cynthia. Cynthia was ready for him, though. She raised a hand and a powerful gust of wind met the water jet head-on, causing it to disperse into a fine mist. Arthur was undeterred, though.
He raised his hands in conjuration a powerful of the earth mana, creating a huge boulder that hurled towards Cynthia at breakneck speed. Cynthia raised an eyebrow, impressed by Arthur's ingenuity. She quickly conjured up a powerful gust of wind, sending the boulder flying back towards Arthur.
Arthur was ready for her, though. He summoned his lightning magic, sending a powerful bolt of electricity straight at the boulder. The lightning bolt hit the boulder with a powerful surge of energy, destroying it completely.
Arthur realized that his long-range attacks were no match for Cynthia's wind magic. He decided to change his strategy and get up close and personal. He slowly let lightning mana flow through his body, in other words, activating Thunderclap Impulse.
Arthur charged towards Cynthia with incredible speed, his body crackling with electricity. Cynthia raised a hand to conjure a powerful gust of wind, but Arthur was too fast. He landed a series of rapid punches and kicks, his lightning magic adding a powerful surge to each attack. Cynthia tried to summon a sound wave to push Arthur away, but his Thunderclap Impulse allowed him to move too quickly for her spells to take effect. He continued to press his attacks, unleashing a series of lightning bolts that struck Cynthia repeatedly. But despite Arthur's skill and power, Cynthia remained unfazed. She raised a hand to create a powerful vortex of wind that engulfed Arthur, tossing him around like a ragdoll. Arthur tried to summon a wave of wind to douse the wind, but it proved to be too weak against Cynthia's magic. He struggled to break free of her spell, but his young body was no match for her incredible power.
With a final burst of wind, Cynthia sent Arthur flying back, his body crashing to the ground with a thud. He lay there, panting and exhausted, his body covered in bruises and cuts from the battle. Rimuru approached his brother and made sure he was okay. "Looks like you got hit, little brother," he said with a sarcastic smile as he extended his hand to his brother to help him up. Ignoring his brother's sarcasm, Arthur took Rimuru's hand and pulled himself up, feeling a sudden wave of exhaustion wash over him. A worried expression crossed Alice's face as she saw Arthur's bruised and battered state. She rushed over to him, concern evident in her eyes. "Arthur, are you all right?" she asked, her voice filled with motherly concern. "That was quite a powerful blow you took." Arthur nodded weakly, offering a reassuring smile. "I'll be fine, Mom. It's just a few bruises. Nothing I can't handle."
Alice's worry didn't dissipate, but she knew her son well enough to know he wouldn't give up easily. She was proud of him, but also worried about his safety.
"Just be careful, my dear," Alice said, cupping Arthur's cheek gently. "Remember that your well-being is more important than any battle or rivalry. Don't push yourself too hard." Arthur nodded, appreciating his mother's concern. Then he turned his attention to the director. "I must say that I'm thoroughly convinced. You pass, Arthur Lewin," the director said as she started to approach them.
"Also, you are a Quadra Elementals like your brother, but are you only a lightning deviant?"
Arthur shook his head. "No, I'm an ice deviant, too."
Cynthia nodded, impressed by the young boy's powers. "Very impressive," she said, her eyes glinting with admiration. "Mr. and Mrs. Lewin, I'd like to give Arthur the same offer I gave Rimuru. He will be fully exempted from any school fee, and I will do everything I can to keep him safe." "Yes, of course, Director Goodsky. We're honored you hold our sons to such a high regard," Mom replies with a little of pride.
"We'll join on our 12th birthday, right?" Arthur asked.
"Yeah, that was the deal. Do you have plans of what you're going to do?" the director explained. Arthur turned to face his parents again since it was up to them to allow them or not.
"I'd like to become an adventurer."
Rimuru Pav. "No. Absolutely no way. Arthur and Rimuru Lewin. Do you know how dangerous it is to become an adventurer? You've just gotten back after we all thought you were dead and now you're saying you want to go get yourselves killed out there. No way. Absolutely not." Our mom was on the verge of tears while she said this. She had never been good at controlling her emotions. Eleanor was besides her, clutching onto her leg. "Mama, don't be angry. Brothers not bad persons. Ooh, Mama, don't cry," Eleanor pleaded, her small voice barely audible. We knew what our mother's response would be. She was always the most protective of us. We had to tread carefully with what we say, or else it could be the start of World War III inside our parents' room. After our announcement, Director Goodsky had left the manor. I could tell she still wanted to ask us a lot of questions, but we excused ourselves to have a family talk. We were currently inside our parents' room with Mom standing up in front of us, forbidding us to even think about doing anything remotely dangerous. Dad was a bit more rational. I could tell he didn't like the idea as well, but he couldn't really see any reason for us not to be adventurers besides our age. We weren't going to debate with our mom. She was saying all this because she was worried. We could never blame her. So we decided to let our father do the talking and hoped that our mother would calm down enough to hear us out. After being silent the whole time, our dad finally spoke up. Honey, let's hear what they're out at least. I'm not saying I agree to them becoming adventurers, but don't you think we should at least listen to what they have to say? How can you still say that after what happened that day? Mom yelled, breaking down into a fit of sobs. Art and I looked to our dad for answers, curious about what she was talking about, but he simply shook his head and comforted our mom. It seemed like a good hour before she had calmed down enough for us to speak again. Arthur took the initiative to speak first and grabbed our mother's hands. Mom. We weren't planning on leaving tomorrow. We were looking forward to spending a few months at home with you guys. Our mother was still silent, but her face softened a little at that. Arthur and I just gave her a warm smile, and Sylvie followed suit by licking her hand. I could see the tension in her body slowly dissipating, but she still looked worried. What I meant by becoming an adventurer was so that I can get some experience. After being in the Elf Kingdom for 3 years, I missed a lot about what I should know about this world of ours. I just thought that becoming an adventurer would be the best way to gain some practical experience, Arthur urged, not letting go of Mother's hands. I understand where you're coming from, Arthur. Although I was a bit older, I was also itching to get some real-life experience in fighting as soon as I awakened as a mage, Dad reminisced. But your mother is also right in that it is dangerous and unpredictable. My mother nodded her head vigorously at this. I stayed silent for a little bit as I pondered. Finally, having enough of Arthur's poor persuasion skills, I decided to voice out an alternative solution. I was thinking that we were to have some sort of guard or supervisor with us, maybe one of the twin horns. What do you think? I said, tilting my head to the side. You know, that's not a bad idea, our father said thoughtfully, mulling over the suggestion. But I still won't be able to see you for 3 years. Our mother protested again. I could tell that the idea of us leaving for such a long time terrified her. Mom, we weren't planning on doing very far quests or traveling far. We'll always try to come every few months, maybe even more often, depending on how many dungeons we do. I said, giving our mother a kiss on the forehead to try to calm her down again. Brothers, are you leaving? Ellie said as she grabbed my clothes with an expression that looked like she was about to cry. I crouched down to meet her at eye level and patted her head. Eleanor, we're still here. We're not leaving right away. We'll be here with you and Mom and Dad for a while longer before we start our adventures. Her eyes lit up, and a smile slowly spread across her face. Yay. Brothers stay here, she exclaimed, her joy infectious. We all chuckled at her excitement, but it was a welcome relief from the tense atmosphere from before. It was clear that our mom wasn't entirely comfortable with the idea, but she seemed to be warming up to it, especially with the thought of us being accompanied by one of the twin horns. Why did you want to be an adventurer before even going to school anyways? Wasn't it usually the opposite? Our mother softly muttered. Dad's reason was a part of it. I want to test my skills out in real-life situations. Also, Mom, we want to at least try to fit in with everyone when we go to school. It would be a lot harder to fit in if we began school at the age of 9. I don't think we'll be able to make many friends with such a big age difference. Art said. It was a very pitiful excuse, but, for once, Mother gave us a look of understanding. I guess it was a mother's worst nightmare for her child to become a loner. Good work, brother. Besides, we're going to be here for a couple months anyway. Who knows? Maybe you'll get sick of us by then and throw us out before we even get the chance to leave. Art winked at my mother, trying to make her smile. That earned him a thump on the head, but she chuckled as well. You're just like your father at times like these. Thank God you at least have my intelligence and your brother puts sense sometimes in your head. She gave him a big hug. Hey, what about my intelligence? He was gifted with my adept abilities in fire too. My father protested. HMPH. My son's got his deviant powers from me. Mother just turned art away from father and just stuck her tongue out at him. Ellie too. Blah. My sister copied my mother and stuck her tongue out at my devastated father. He pretended to be devastated, covering his face with his hands dramatically.
Sniff. No one's on my side, he wailed, pulling me in into a hug. I couldn't help but laugh as I replied, yeah, I'm on your side, old man. The rest of my family joined in our laughter.
The next day was a Sunday, leaving father with the day off. Both the Lewin and Helstia family were dining together for breakfast. So did you guys settle on what to do about they too? Uncle Vincent asked, Alf chewing on his omelet. Aunt Tabitha shook her head disapprovingly. I swear. Sometimes, I have shook a hard time believing you're a noble with your horrible dining habits, dear.
Cuckoo, don't worry. At least your husband's better than mine. Remember that one dinner party where Ray spit out his food from laughing so hard? I had to use Ellie as an excuse to leave the table because I was so embarrassed. Mother just sighed. This information made me and Lily laugh a lot. Anyway, yes, after talking about it yesterday night, we agreed to let them become Adventires under some conditions. Vince. Father just lightly blushed as he tried to switch back the topic. Oh, what conditions? Responded the curious Aunt Tabitha as she was cutting the omelet into smaller pieces for Lily. Neither of them are to become adventurers until after their birthdays, in 3 months. They'll also be with one of the twin horns, who'll be back within 2 months from their last mission, on their missions. Aside from that, they should be able to handle the rest on their own. Of course, the last condition is they'll be visiting us as often as possible, Father explained, working on the rest of his roast beef. But unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to send a mail to them yet, about my sons being back. I was planning on doing that today. My father completed while scratching his head.
Wait, isn't better to not show your abilities before enrolling into Xyrus Academy? How you plan on doing that while your adventures? Uncle Vincent said, calling us. From what I know, we can keep your identity hidden as adventurers, we just need aliases, masks, and some cloak that could cover the rest of our bodies, I said, finishing my breakfast. Can we count on you in obtaining that for us, Uncle Vincent?
Uncle Vincent chuckled, of course, my dear nephew. I'll make sure to get you all the necessary equipment for your new identities as adventurers. Thank you, Uncle Vincent, I said, giving him a grateful smile. With that, breakfast ended and we all separated.